Slate. Is that what that's called? That's what that's called, right?
Sure is.
I wouldn't know.
Sweet slate.
They actually call it sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is a slate, but they say sticks. I hate on-set lingo.
Yeah, that's stupid.
It bothers me.
You call tripods sticks too.
Yeah, or what did they call them? Yeah, and that's the thing. Oh, yeah, or that's a good
that's
point.
true.
Like
yeah, also.
sticks, and then
Yeah.
someone brings out a tripod. You want one of these?
Yes, exactly. exactly.
Yeah, that's me on set.
And then the hijinks.
I hate for some reason.
Hilarious.
I think anytime. Here's my thing about on-set lingo is that I think that there's if you've ever been on a set before, there's a lot of people who are kind of affecting this very kind of blue collar attitude. They've got like gloves and work belts and things, and they're talking on walkie-talkies, and you realize they all went to art school, and they're all just trying to like use terms like sticks and all of that to try and seem more blue collar and more workmanly than they are. It's like, we can see through you, film set people. You're not blue collar.
Yeah, you hear that?
Leave it
film set
alone.
people?
All right,
Kyle
I don't
can
like
see
you.
right through you.
Yeah, that's right. These are my friends. I just like to rib them because
Literally see right through
Yes.
you.
It's a superpower. Welcome to Scale as Needed, folks.
Yo.
Yeah.
Speaking of superpowers, I haven't finished the series yet. I'm actually only just 2 episodes in. But have you guys seen The Boys?
I have not, no.
I haven't watched it yet.
Have you watched it?
Shit's mad fire.
You got to like episode 4 so
I'm at,
far? Episode 5?
midway through episode 5, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. The superhero thing?
Yeah, you guys should watch it. It's on
Okay.
Amazon Prime. You guys should watch it too. It's fucking great.
Cool.
They all probably already
It
are.
is. It's awesome. I don't know how best to describe it. It's almost like
R-rated superheroes.
yeah, like way R-rated
Yeah, yeah.
superheroes.
super R-rated.
Yeah, super R-rated. It's like if superheroes were like if like the Marvel Cinematic Universe was actually had those superheroes who are like real people in this
Yeah.
world, and they were making billions and billions and billions of dollars and were absolutely untouchable above the law,
Nice.
Yeah.
and they were still celebrities and shit.
I don't think I'm giving anything away, but that guy fucked that dolphin.
All right.
Are you
sold
hooked?
me, Chase?
Yeah.
I legit wasn't going to watch it until Chase just said that, and now I might.
Yeah, piece that together.
So really, if anything, they I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but they could have saved a lot of money on marketing.
Yeah.
You know, let's not put them on talk shows, put that ads out there, just say that guy, he fucked that dolphin, and everyone would watch.
Go fuck Shamu in the blowhole.
Ooh.
That is a direct quote from that show. If that doesn't make you want to
Double
watch that
watching
show.
now.
If
Yeah.
you fuck Shamu in the blowhole, would he suffocate to death? Does he have an alternative means of breathing?
Listen, that motherfucker ate a bunch of trainers and stuff.
Does
so.
Shamu breathe? I
Yeah.
think it breathes out through its blowhole. It's not
Yes.
breathing in through the blowhole.
I thought it was. I thought it was just breathing in and out.
It's
Yeah.
breathing it out. It's a
Yeah.
nostril.
Yeah,
just-
it is
yeah.
the nose.
Is it its
Yeah.
only nostril?
Oh, I mean, I think it can also breathe through its mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it breathes through its mouth or not, or if the blowhole is the only way.
I'm going to take a wild guess and assume that blowhole, the muscles that are opening and closing that are so strong that that's cutting your dick
Just
off.
snap your dick off.
Just rip it right
It's
off.
cutting it right off, dog.
Which is what you deserve,
Yes,
honestly, if you're
100%.
trying to have sex with a dog.
right.
Also, by the way, Shamu is like a killer whale. It's pretty big, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't its blowhole be like
human size?
pretty fucking
Yeah.
big?
Yeah.
Well, to you.
What are you? What are you really getting out of that? What are you really getting out
There's
of
a
that?
reason why Poseidon was a god.
Well, I mean, maybe not you, Armin, but some of us.
I've got a joke. I've got a real. Here's a joke. A wife is talking to her husband about how she had a dream that she was at an auction for dicks. That long dicks were really expensive and thick dicks were even more expensive. And the husband goes, "What about dicks like mine?" She goes, "Oh, they were giving that away free." So not to be one-upped, he goes, "Oh yeah, well, I was having a dream that I was at an auction for pussies." And she goes, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, tight pussies were expensive and, you know, I don't know, whatever, were
Yeah,
more
yeah.
expensive." I honestly can't. And she's like, "What about pussies like mine?" He goes, "That's where they're doing the auction."
It's just a bizarre variation on Shane Black's joke from Predator.
Oh, is it really?
Well, no, it's
I
just
don't
it
remember
feels
that at
like
all.
that one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, geez, you got a big pussy. Geez, you got a big pussy. Why'd you say it twice? I didn't.
There you go.
There you go.
The joke is it's huge enough to have the
An
auction
echo.
inside of it.
Yes, and then
that
auction.
joke is that
Yes.
the echo. Anyway, we're a CrossFit podcast.
We sure are. We sure are. It's good. It's good to just to prime the pump, if you will, every time for about 3 or 4 minutes.
This
Let
is
them know what's
this is
up.
key. Yeah, this is key. It's like
This shakes off the pretenders.
the non-believers. Anyone who didn't like that first few minutes of this episode.
Can suck my.
Also, if you listen to it, it's really on you because there's always someone in the comments that says the first 8 to 10 minutes are garbage.
Yes.
Click
Yeah.
here.
Oh yeah.
And then
Oh,
you
yeah,
click
that's a
there
good
and you get
point.
straight
We
to the
need
good
to
stuff.
continue to deliver that garbage.
Whoever that is in the comments, like really doing the Lord's work. Congratulations. Just like giving people actual timestamps for
Yes.
when they
That's
can just
really
skip
great.
all the garbage and
Yeah,
get straight
yeah.
to whatever it is they want
I
to talk
love it.
about.
Arguably garbage.
But I think what that means is we have to titrate more garbage into the latter 54 minutes of the podcast. So more random, just aggressively vulgar non sequiturs that seem to come out of nowhere and really suck all of the air out of the
I
room.
will say that telling a joke is probably a lot easier if you actually remember all of it right from the
Yeah.
get-go, instead of
I mean, you
trying
would think
to
so,
remember
but-
as you're telling it.
You just
But-
you straight up were like grasping at straws,
You-
trying to figure out what else would make a vagina valuable. It's tight.
Shy ones and then
couldn't-
the other kind.
I could not remember what the joke was supposed to be like.
Bags
and I
of sand.
I had no
Bag of
way
sand.
of improving that. That was wild. That was pretty crazy.
This is his 40-year-old virgin moment. It's like, Armin, you've seen a vagina before, right?
Yeah. So before I guess we get into, now that we've shed the non-believers,
Yes.
and before we get into any other like fitness talk,
Uh-huh.
there's more merchandise now available for sale, guys.
Oh,
In
shit.
case you were wondering, there's sneaky fit shirts and tanks and BRP dad caps and shirts and stuff. You guys all have versions of those things, and you're not wearing any of them right now. That's good.
Yep. Yeah.
That's good planning on our part.
I have my BRP shirt in the car that I'm wearing to the movies, but I realized I wore it last week on the pod. And I didn't want to look like I hadn't showered.
Oh, there
That's
you go.
no, that's
a
good.
call.
That's smart.
That's a good call.
I'm
Cliff bought this Muppet Show shirt
shit.
at Waterloo Records while we were waiting for our table at 24 Diner to
Oh
eat
yeah,
breakfast.
exactly.
Dude,
1
that's-
week ago. Uh-huh.
That is maybe the best pairing right there. Like
Yes.
24 diners,
And
always just
Waterloo.
like, well, we're packed. You're going to have to wait at least 30 to 40
Yes.
minutes.
Yep.
And Waterloo's right there.
I mean, honestly, I think that's why it's so successful. Is like they have a big wait, but it's like there's Waterloo, there's Whole Foods. It's like, all right, just go put in your
If
name.
they
and
wanted
do
to,
shit.
like-
The one
ahead.
negative of that whole situation, though, good as it is the parking lot situation. Very
That's true.
difficult to find parking, very tight to maneuver in parking, and it's so tight to maneuver in parking that after a lovely, lovely day of going to 24 Diner, going to Waterloo Records, walking over, it was such a long wait, walked over to Whole Foods, got a coffee there, extremely pleasant, came back, whole left side of my car scraped.
What?
Yep.
Fucking asshole.
Fucking
The
asshole.
truck that was parked next to us
Yep.
backed out and just scraped the entire side, dented in the side of Cliff's car.
Mm-hmm.
He had to go take it in for body work.
Yep.
White paint scratched along the whole side and just took off.
Yep,
Is there like cameras that you get
I
the
looked
license
all
plate or
around
something?
to see if there's someone we could talk to. I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
That sucks.
yeah.
That's
So anyway-
the type of shit that happens in like a high school parking lot. Jesus Christ.
It is. No note, obviously. And then, but thankfully, Geico was able to cover me past my $1,000 deductible. So the $1,100 repair bill,
I love it.
they covered $100 of that
Dude,
to
they're
get my
gracious
car
over there,
right
I tell you.
to brand
Buy
spanking
yourself
new.
something nice.
They're like, yo, $120, $140 a month, and we will spot you approximately 1/5 of that.
And I'm pretty sure
I feel like Chase had something he wanted to say about 24
Oh, yeah,
Diner
yeah.
and Waterloo. We cut him off twice,
yeah, sorry.
like 5 minutes
Oh
ago.
yeah,
What was the point?
You missed the the secret to that parking situation is to park at Whole Foods, run through Whole Foods,
Oh, there
grab
you
like
go.
a pack of gum.
There you go.
So then you're in the clear,
Oh,
and then you can just walk wherever the fuck you want around there.
Nice.
that's not a bad idea.
There's good neighborhood parking in the Clarksville area. I feel like this is good universal content for our
Yeah.
listeners in Egypt.
I
They're
think
going to
all of
want to
our
know.
fans-
They're going to want to know where where to park.
Well, one of the most
24
common
Diner.
things that I was hearing from people at the CrossFit Games, like I met people like Norwegians, South American, fans, and every single one was like, you know what I want to know more about? Specifics about parking in downtown Austin.
Yes.
And I was like, I think we can deliver that type of content for you. I think we can deliver that content for
Well,
everybody.
I mean, come on. Who knows? I mean, in the next couple months to couple decades, they could be in Austin, and they're going to have to drive from the airport, and they're going to be hungry.
As far as, I mean, if you listen to Texans, if you listen to people who live in Austin, everybody's going to be living in Austin sooner rather than later.
Yeah, pretty
100%.
much. It seems to be. That seems
you're
to be where
gonna-
things are going.
I think 110,000 people are moving here a day.
Yes.
That's an actual statistic that I made up. Right
I think there are
there.
110,000 companies moving here a day from California and New York currently. So
I was talking to my accountant. I got my taxes done finally.
Damn,
That was
sounds
awesome.
like a rich person flex. God damn.
Well, yeah, anyway, so I was talking to my accountant. My accountant was like, man, when I moved here 30 years ago, I had to stop for cows on the loop, on loop one, and I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, that used to not be like an elevated like 4-lane each direction highway. That was just like a road that went around the outskirts of like anything anyone would consider Austin. I was like, oh fuck.
Yep.
So basically where I live right now, which is like, kind of an up and coming, pretty sweet little neighborhood in Austin, South Austin, was like not at all a thing even like 10, 15 years ago.
Well, it was a thing. It was not a thing. I can even 15 years ago when we moved here, outside of the central areas of Austin, to the east side or to the south, there were lots of people living there. But it was like it was largely immigrant populations, like largely just like historically just Spanish neighborhoods and sort of thing. So if you were a English-speaking person who lived in the downtown area, it was just weird to even cross over to the other side of 35 sometimes, because you're just like, oh, well, there's just nothing over there. It's like, this is where downtown ends. And it's crazy that all of that real estate was there for so long just because of an arbitrary like cultural divide that sort of separated downtown and other things, or had for like 20 years. And then it just broke one day, and now everyone all mixes together, and like all of these little plots of land on the east side that are like right on the lake that had like a lean-to on it and a pickup truck are now like $10 million pieces of property.
It's wild.
Just like in a couple of years. It's insane. It's ridiculous.
It is insane. I actually heard a thing on NPR about how, and I think this is probably more common than people imagine, but like 100 years ago or whatever it was, when they were sort of zoning Austin, they actually zoned east of 35, East Austin, into like almost like a segregated neighborhood, which is why East Austin was like historically so black. Like it just had every black citizen of Austin was basically forced to live in East Austin, which was totally cool until like 15 or 20 years ago, when people realized that's like prime real estate.
We want that also.
Like
now.
we also want this. So sorry. But that reminds me of a very strange interaction that I witnessed at the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
And if you've done CrossFit or you live in the world and watch CrossFit, you've probably noticed that most CrossFitters are white. It's just not like a I don't think that's a controversial statement. That's just a statement of fact. But I'm not 100% sure what the cause of that is. In fact, I actually had a really cool podcast with Elizabeth Akinwale back when I was doing the Wadcast. It was me and Scott and Elizabeth Akinwale, and we talked a lot about like race and CrossFit and why we don't see a lot of black CrossFitters and that sort of thing. But there was this moment at the CrossFit Games. It was at like the quote unquote press conference after one of the days. It's like Dave and Katrin and Matt and Noah and Brooke Wells and like they're all sitting there, and someone like in the press corps like raised their hand and was like, Dave, everyone on this stage looks alike. And that immediately made every single person be like, the fuck did you just say? All like Matt, even Noah, who I don't think has ever made a mean face in his entire life, was like, excuse me? The fuck did you just say about us? And this dude asked Dave Castro, what are you going to do to include more diversity in the CrossFit Games in the future? And Dave was like, he literally just looked at him and silence. Everyone started laughing. And Dave stood up and just announced the next workout and just walked away. It was like, bye. That's the end of that's the end of this press conference, everybody.
Yeah, that's
everyone.
Yeah, I not necessarily the right context to introduce any of that. And it's like I can answer that question. I feel like it's a pretty simple question to answer in terms of the people in it's like why are CrossFitters, when you think of CrossFitters, primarily white? Well, it's because currently CrossFit is primarily a toy for very rich people, and it's like so you're highly selecting into a population of people that is predominantly very, very white. Because where are people doing CrossFit? In CrossFit boxes, or at least they have been. What is very interesting, I find, is to, like all things, like most fun things that start out as fun toys for the rich, and then eventually we begin to figure out ways to sort of deliver good shit at a cheaper and cheaper price point. Now more and more and more and more people are going to start finding it in the next few years, and that's when hopefully all of the selection of the fittest people in the world can be far more representative, and we can see a lot more of that, and we will, I guarantee you, see more diversity at the CrossFit Games at that point. Because the interesting thing is, and while I absolutely believe that all the people at the CrossFit Games are among the very fittest people in the world, and I think that Matt Fraser absolutely has a right to that title. The fact is, especially in this country, it's like it's largely, CrossFit is a urban, affluent phenomenon. And so if you're selecting for the fittest person in the country, you're selecting vaguely within a population that is more urban and more affluent than the rest of the country. So it'll be interesting to see all those gaps fill in over the course of the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, even Greg Glassman says, like, just wait until, and I've been saying this for a long time. It's like, just wait until the Chinese realize that they can have like the same sort of, not the same, but a similar type of clout. The way that they just start smashing a ton of fucking Olympic medals, they can have a similar type of clout by winning a bunch of CrossFit competitions. And the 100,000 Chinese national weightlifters that are never going to be Olympians but are way stronger than any American weightlifter. That might be an exaggeration. It's maybe like 99,000.
And who are also world-class gymnasts
who are also world-class gymnasts at the same time will probably find some
their hat in the
comfort
ring,
in CrossFit.
I was going to also say that I think the other main reason that we're missing here isn't because black people are poor. It's because they're busy doing real sports.
Yes.
Barry Sanders.
Yes.
Michael Jordan.
That goes with that, and that
LeBron
all that
James.
and all of that shit goes without saying. All that shit goes without saying.
It's funny you should mention that, because I think that there is a lot more diversity in CrossFit than people give it credit for. I just think it's when you get to that top end of like the athletic sphere, it's so European, it's so Australian, it's so American that's all you end up seeing. Whereas like at my box when I opened my gym, it was in downtown Glendale. Glendale has a huge Armenian population. Our gym's population was mostly Indian or Armenian, and it was because we were serving like, the downtown, like bunch of engineers that worked at like Yellow Pages or a few other like, big internet companies down there, or we were servicing our other part of the community, like business owners and people in the community who lived in the neighborhoods. Is mostly Armenians or Indian. And it's like, that was my experience, and that was one of the things I remember from our conversation with EA with Akin Wallace. She was saying the same thing. She's like, I train in Chicago. My gym is predominantly black. I was like, oh well, that fucking makes sense because it's just like a snapshot of the neighborhood. It's just really interesting that because the sport is so dominated from like the European side of things, the Australian side of things, and the American side of things, it's mostly white Westerners that are showing up at the top end.
Oh yeah, and the whole point that Chase brought up is one that's almost like we kind of all assume to be true, which is the fact it's like the actual fittest people in the country right now are all making millions of dollars at playing real sports. So when we say the fittest person in the country, we largely mean those who have been chopped out of the world of professional sports. And among the rest of us exercisers, who is the fittest person in the country?
Chopped out of the world of professional sports, but still motivated to work hard and stay fit and exercise hard, which most people who fit into that category just get fat and, don't do anything else.
You end up being like, I peaked in high school. I threw four touchdowns. What's that fucking Married with Children thing? Four touchdowns.
Yeah, but the other thing is, what will happen? Here's the interesting thing that happens is for football and for basketball and for, to a lesser extent, I suppose, baseball and hockey, there's this giant net in the country for, if you, it's like where those sports are important to you, you would if you could be good at those sports, you would want to be good at those sports. So anyone who has any ability to succeed at either football or basketball within those spheres, if you grow up in a household where those things are like any of us did because we grew up in America, it's like you will go and play one of those sports. Now, here's an interesting thing. Having worked in sports for a little while, some of one of the reasons why the United States is not necessarily very competitive in wrestling in the heavier weights is because if you're a big guy and you're super fit and you're in America, there's no fucking way you're going to be a wrestler because there's a real sport for you to go be successful in, which is football. So
lacrosse, but
so several of the heavyweight guys were like one of the heavyweight wrestlers for several years was Tervel Delagnev, who's this super big, super fit guy, but his parents, I can't remember, his Bulgarian parents. So he just grew up in a household where he's like, football was just not important, and so why would he want? So maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but he probably could have easily been like a D1 something.
Oh, obviously, no, he could have been a fucking pro football player. He's a freak athlete.
He is a crazy freak athlete.
Yeah,
but that being said, that was not a value. So what'll be interesting is right now the problem is that there's a whole bunch of people who could actualize a tremendous amount of success in both the United States and internationally in CrossFit, but why would they? Because they've never heard of it, and who cares? So as it grows and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that is starting to become more of a thing, I think if you're a little bit more in cities, and stuff, you can start to see more CrossFit gyms around. It feels like more of a real thing. But as it grows bigger and bigger and bigger, that net's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if we can get to the point where the net of people who are interested in CrossFit is even half of the fucking size of the net of basketball or football, then we're going to see what is happening at the CrossFit Games now potentially be left in the dust.
Once the prize for the CrossFit Games gets below the NFL minimum, then
you mean above the NFL?
Above the NFL minimum. Sorry, above the NFL minimum. Once 10th place at the CrossFit Games crosses the barrier of like the NFL minimum, then maybe.
Oh, you mean so like never? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be a point at which 10th place at the CrossFit Games gets you like $500,000.
I don't know. The fucking what do you get for fucking winning Wimbledon? I don't know. What is that? That's $1 million check there.
And who cares? Because it's tennis. Exactly.
That's
so CrossFit could kick a lot more ass.
That's a good point.
I mean, I don't know. We say all this, but also who knows? Like those, like the athletes that excel at those sports are like freak athletes at like a lot of times like unorthodox shit, right? Like they'll power clean, like reverse curl like 450 pounds, and you're like, holy shit. But then like they go to do a front squat or like an overhead squat and they just like can't ever do it. I don't know, man, but it'd be fun to watch.
I mean,
like, we should just make the NFL have to do CrossFit.
Yeah, I think that would help some guys.
Or horribly maim them.
Or horribly maim them.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think it's interesting, though, it's not so much that I'm saying like anyone in the NFL could just walk right out and just win the CrossFit Games tomorrow, because as we know, as Hunter found out, there's many specialized skills involved. I think he knew going in. There's many specialized skills involved, but I think the people with the highest capacities, a lot of the highest raw capacities, who like effortlessly ascend when in whatever sport they get into to the top, those kinds of people, those like 1 in a million kinds of people, often end up in the NFL or the NBA. LeBron James being the biggest example of that, the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting interesting not to say that like, oh, this guy, if he gets cut from this team, could just walk in and win the CrossFit Games, but instead more like as we see guys who are in that, who maybe are training more in a way that is like that, and if they don't necessarily, if things don't pan out in the NFL or whatever, if they end up already having a robust skill set and they can do overhead squats and they've been on rings and they've done all those things and they've been training CrossFit, and they're one of those 1 in a million guys. Who knows? It might be. I'm saying there still could be, and I guess this is my big point. I think there could be a much higher ceiling on fitness than we have yet seen at the CrossFit Games.
Sure. I think so, but I also don't think that it's. I don't think the delta between what someone like Matt Fraser or Rich or Tia is able to do.
It's hard when Matt is involved. I think it's hard when Matt is involved because he's so exceptional. It's hard to almost picture what's beyond that. Maybe we'll like sit down and find that silly in a few years, but the whole field we might see more.
How much faster can you drop from a muscle up to a bar facing burpee and back up to the muscle up?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And I first off, my first point is that I would say I don't think it's NFL players. I don't think it would come from NFL. I think it's more likely to come from something like
a Jordan
MMA.
Burroughs.
Or MMA, wrestling or fighting sports, because that is not as a
swimmers would probably fuck shit up.
Maybe
they're
because
the
reason why I say it's not the NFL is because probably the single most like ridiculous human specimen on the face of the planet who stopped playing professional football and started doing CrossFit is an awful CrossFitter, and that's James Townsend. James Townsend he can like power clean 405. He has like a 60-inch box jump, like a 40-something-inch vertical, super fast. But he's like hyper jacked. You can do like 1 million muscle ups in a row or something. But he's not good at CrossFit because he just doesn't have the
metabolic.
Yeah, his body's built for like exploding. As opposed to...
For clarity, we value James Townsend based off those factors. We do not care about his CrossFit ability.
I don't give a fuck how good he is.
We follow the shit out of him on Instagram because he picks heavy shit up.
He's so impressive. He's so impressive to watch anything that he's doing, and it's like...
But you've trained with him, I guess.
I have, yeah.
So is it basically just he doesn't have the engine for the long...
Yeah, I mean, it's like if it's not under 5 minutes, even that, like.
But that's the thing is like because we have like we draw out this one example and he has this skill set, but he maybe is lacking in another. But the thing is, the more examples of those that come in, I maybe, and again, this is where I don't know. Is there something innately about having that much power available to you that would hold you back in some of the domains necessary for CrossFit and make you burn too hot, whatever? I don't, maybe.
The answer is
that's a factor. Well, yes, but that's what I'm saying is when eventually, but will that, but if we're looking at 40 James Townsends, is there going to be that one guy who can do that and do the other thing?
Okay, so
he's just, because he's magic.
Physiologically, that's funny. Physiologically speaking, yes. You can just be too fast twitch. And while you can work over time to like shut down fast twitch and like become more slow twitch, you can just be too explosive to be good at CrossFit. Yeah. That's just part of the.
Yeah, there's a lot of athletes like that. It's like isn't it called like occluding? Essentially, like wherever you like, it's that pump feeling that you get where you can't like operate anymore. Like people that have like really strong power output and fast twitch muscles, they occlude like way sooner, and then they just can't buff it out. Yeah. So like when they redline, they're just like, oh, I'm done. Yeah. And it's like a fucking like wrecked Ferrari like sitting in the corner.
I would argue that one of the sort of like underappreciated physiological gifts that it takes to be good at CrossFit is you have to be durable. Like in order to be really good at CrossFit, you have to be able to take a beating on a regular basis without falling apart. And if you look at the types of volume that athletes like Rich and Matt and Tia and Annie and all these different athletes have put in over the past 10 years, that's really what it is. It's like they have this sort of ability, and you can train that, but they have this baseline durability. And it's interesting because people would probably listen to this and point out the fact that, oh, Matt Fraser broke his back and had like back surgery, and that's very true. Yeah. But he broke his back doing something that was not a durability issue. He broke his back doing something that was an intensity issue. It was very, very heavy back squats constantly. Yeah. And that's
which is always a good idea.
Which is always a good idea. That's a different thing than
as someone that's done that, I would say it's maybe not the best idea.
As someone who spent a lot of years doing it and then had 2 surgeries.
Yeah, and so when you look at, I think that might be one of the things that sort of under the undercurrent.
My leg
that
came
separates.
apart.
Yeah. Kyle's leg exploded at some point. In case everyone doesn't know this story.
I fell, and then the barbell fell all the way to the ground.
Yeah.
And then there was a gap where my quad used to be.
But
classic sand. Go ahead.
The undercurrent of what it takes to be exceptional at CrossFit is these sort of secondary capacities that a lot of people just don't necessarily even think of. And one of the biggest ones is exactly that. It's durability. It's like, are you physically tough enough to survive it?
Yeah.
To follow up on that, by the way, there's another thing that I think we need to look at, which is the fact that what really is the difference between a CrossFitter now versus a CrossFitter like 10, 12 years ago, right? Like, what's the difference between Matt Fraser's capacity now and like Miko Salo in 2009? And I think I mean, I'm just spitballing here because I just thought of it while we were having this discussion, but like, they're stronger, a lot stronger. I mean, our weightlifting has increased like dramatically, right? Miko won 2009. He snatched 175 in the max snatch event.
That's what's
175.
I can get down with that type of number.
175.
175.
Awful. And yet the capacity has increased as much, but not as dramatically. And I wonder what we're going to see the 2029 CrossFit Games champion versus the 2019 CrossFit Games champion, right? Like in 2029, are we going to be seeing the Games champion on the men's side snatching 350?
In 2029, it's...
Or is it going to be like they still snatch around 305 to 315, but now they can run sub 5 miles while doing it? They can run a 450 mile.
Run a sub 5 mile with that barbell on their back.
That's right.
Year 2029, it's a face-off between the reigning champ for the last 9 years, Tom Brady, Cyborg. His whole lower body's been just replaced with cybernetics. And there's a new competitor that just came in. He transferred out of the NBA. His name's LeBronis Jameses.
It's LeBron James's grandson?
No, it's just LeBron James.
Oh. So what you're saying is that...
But what about the 29-29 CrossFit Games champion, who is actually a giant mechanized millipede with Tom Brady's head stuck on the end?
It's still Tom Brady. It's like his brain's still there, so it knows all the right things to do.
But Brady Pete is going to win for about 900 years straight. Once Brady Pete is going to hold on to that, and eventually John Connor and the Human Resistance is going to smash him.
Well, you guys remember the 30-30 games when Brady Pete simultaneously did all 20 events on the first day?
It's like, well, that's why he has 100,000 arms. I mean, why else would he? That each one of them has a left hand on the end of it. We're not sure why.
They couldn't even get it all on the feed. Yeah, the broadcast wasn't large enough to pick up all of Brady Pete.
He just ended up crushing the whole stadium like an anaconda. Tens of thousands of people died. Anyway, continue. Sorry, CrossFit Games.
Life is cheap in 30-30.
Life is very cheap in 30-30.
I mean, we've moved way beyond Earth at that point.
Yes.
You know, people have seeded the moon,
Yes.
potentially even Mars.
They've seeded all the planets. All the planets are pregnant now.
Unmodified humans are like ants to
low
us.
gravity.
Yeah, I think the question that we should ask, based off of looking at, you know, what the past 10 years of growth in terms of like fitness has been, right? The top end of fitness. If you had told somebody that, you know, the last event at the CrossFit Games is going to be the standard, it's going to be Grace, 30 muscle ups time at Isabel, and like the fastest people are going to finish it at the last event of the CrossFit Games in like 7 minutes, I think a lot of people would freak the fuck out. But how much faster does that get? Like, physically, is it possible to do something like the standard in 4 minutes? You'd like 30 clean and jerks unbroken, 30 muscle ups unbroken, 30 snatches unbroken? Probably not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you're like bionic, but probably not.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is I think that those things will probably continue to group together tighter and tighter and tighter. But I think that as those things become tight, as everything becomes tighter and tighter and tighter, the games, the range of the modalities and the things that the games will test will naturally expand to try and find ways to separate the athletes out. So maybe even in the same way that like the games 10 years ago felt like a comprehensive test of fitness, and yet we look back on it and think, well, it didn't have this long range element, or it didn't have inversion, or it didn't have all sorts of things that we now consider to be vital parts of it. It'll be interesting to see as what we currently consider to be a broad test of fitness, and I believe that it very much is, or the most thorough one we have, kind of shores up and all those cracks fill in. What are there other areas in fitness that we just haven't pushed into yet? Even, I don't know, longer range stuff than that. Like, you know, it's a 7-day run leading into the CrossFit. I'm just trying to think of anything to create separation between them, because there's what else are they going to do except find new things to push into as all of those things get shored up. And that might be where we see those leaps and bounds of fitness. It's not so much that people are going to do what Matt Fraser has done so much faster, but they might do what Matt Fraser has done about as fast as him, but also do some crazy other shit that blows our minds.
Right, and that I think is if you look at where the biggest sort of, okay, so if you use weightlifting as an example, right? You know, clean and jerk 370 pounds, snatch 315. That's pretty good on like a U.S. national level. It's decent. You could like compete at the American Open, maybe compete at nationals there, depending on the weight class. Do pretty well, but the weight class that these guys would be competing at, you do okay, right? Tia Claire Toomey, very good weightlifter, Commonwealth gold medalist, Olympian, you know, very, very good on the international stage. So if you look at the progression of weightlifting, you'd never have seen, you know, Jason Khalipa or Miko Salo or Katie Matter or, you know, like Tanya Wagner becoming a national level or international level weightlifter. So the question becomes, what is the equivalent of that increase among the other disciplines that CrossFit sort of gets into? You know, are we going to be seeing, we have plenty of athletes who can snatch in the high 200s and run a 5.5 minute mile. How many of those same athletes can run 17-minute 5Ks, right? How many of those same athletes can run 35-minute 10Ks? How many of those same athletes can swim a 1K in a relatively competitive time, right? Can they do it in 10 minutes? And so there's, I don't even know, that might be super fast.
I have no idea.
But my point is there's clear glaring holes in the overall like curvature of fitness, right? If like fitness is like your area under the curve of like all these different tests that you can do, like great at fucking weightlifting, terrible at like, you know, floor events on gymnastics. Like you don't really see anybody, and these guys like doing fucking
the ribbon.
somersaults
That's
or
what we need
bounding.
to introduce.
Ooh.
The ribbon, artistic gymnastics,
rhythmic
gymnastics,
Matt
gymnastics.
can do back handsprings and shit though.
Yeah.
There's a video somewhere of him
He
doing
can,
all that
that's
shit.
very true. I remember that video with
It's
Rich and
disturbing.
Dan as well.
Yeah. When do the uneven bars get introduced?
Right,
You
and
know?
I mean, I think if you look at the
See my way out.
capacities, if you
Don't
look
worry, the
at
men don't do that one.
If you
But
look
then
at
again, women didn't do rings in gymnastics, so maybe
That's true.
it's very true. If you look at the general capacities that are being tested in CrossFit, I think there's definitely an argument to be made that there's holes in the game of everybody that everyone shares. Like no one is exceptionally great at long shit, and we're pretty good at long shit in very specific instances. Like Lucas Esslinger is really fucking good at rowing a marathon. Margot Alvarez is really fucking good at rowing a marathon. But that said, how are we at running marathons? We don't fucking know. The longest distance that CrossFitters have ever run is like, I think 8 miles, and that was at the Pendleton event. So, you know, even that was more of like survive under the hot sun without water, you little bastards, more than it was like a running event. So I think there's a lot of room there, in the same way that we saw someone like Khalipa come out in like 2013 and was like, hey man, 2013, 2014, he's like, I found a coach to develop this giant hole in all of our game, aerobic capacity. And now everyone who wants to be good at CrossFit works with Chris Hinshaw and does aerobic capacity stuff. Every single champion in every division does Chris Hinshaw's workouts. It's just like, bar none, if you want to be the best, you have to work with the guy, because he's developing something that CrossFitters have avoided and ignored for years and years and years and years.
Though at this point, I feel like there have been more years with Chris Henshaw than without. At this
in the
point,
modern
though.
area, for sure.
Yeah,
in the modern era, for sure. And
because that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah, it feels like
that.
it now.
Yeah, actually, yeah,
it feels like it now, right? And so, you know, when you look at, I think when you look at those types of advances. Like 6 years ago, saying that, oh, I'm working on my running 3 days a week, and then actually improving that capacity. And, you know, even Hinshot saying, like, at his best, Khalipa was basically primed to run a 3-hour marathon, which isn't impressive if you're comparing it to the elites, but it's really fucking impressive when you're 220-pound gorilla.
It's real impressive if you just look at him for a second.
Strict press 260 pounds or whatever the fuck. Like,
Jesus.
Like that's very impressive to be able to do that.
That famous, what is it, 800s video with him
right.
and yeah, it's him and Henshaw doing that thing. I was showing it to a track guy, and we just hit play on it. And when when Jason took off on his first run, like or not his first run, one of his runs, it was like round 7 or whatever, took off. He kind of chuckled a little bit. And he's like, well, you know, because he looked like this big bear just tiredly running. And then a voice or a text or someone came up and explained like what round he was on and what times he had hit. And like immediately the laughter stopped, and he goes, what, really? And just and you realize that he was like, oh, this big bear that he's watching on the thing is probably running faster and fitter than he was at the moment, you know, not being a currently in training professional athlete. And I think that that's where it gets surprising, is it's like, it's not maybe impressive as an elite runner, but to look at him and see that he's running those times was crazy. So.
And I think that's interesting to point out that we're, as CrossFitters, elite CrossFitters on the whole, very fucking good at power output if power output's being measured without locomotion. If you actually have to move your body, whether it's running or swimming or biking, elite CrossFitters tend to not be comparatively as good at that as they are at something like power output measured on an erg.
Right.
Power output on an erg is actually much easier for CrossFitters to do, I think, on a whole, just because it's much more like sit down and
So why do you think that, like, actually, like, the body in transit is more difficult for people who have trained for CrossFit than not? Is it just a body mass thing? Is it this particular type of strength that's been developed, which is more, I mean, why is it that, because I've experienced it myself, even when I was at my fittest. I also can't fucking swim, but I remember like getting into the water and being like, man, just getting like 4 feet over in the pool is really killing me right now. Like I thought I'll just do some laps in the pool, and I made it like a third of the way across the pool, and I was like, nope, I'm all done. Running, even when regardless of how high my my work capacity got, always that. But why do you think there's something in particular about the body kind of in transit that is difficult for CrossFitters?
Yeah, I think moving your body through space is essentially, as like a core part of its truth, a more difficult thing than not moving your body through space, regardless of what the activity is, right? Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why, I mean, there's probably physiological reasons for that. Muscle mass is one reason, right? You see people who can be really, really fucking good on an erg, on a rower, which just purely measures capacity and work output on this machine, but does not require you to be able to locomote yourself, right? If you have a lot of muscle mass and a lot of length on that event, on that type of a machine, you actually are doing really well. You're built for that. Whereas running requires like a certain cadence and a rhythm and a technique and a breathing, and like there's a lot more to it simply because you're moving forward. And it's not that those things don't exist. There's a rhythm and a technique and a breathing and a cadence to rowing or you know, biking or whatever, but it's very different than actually moving yourself through space.
And then I think there's also probably an element of it where, and obviously CrossFitters for a long time needed to work more on running, and something that I was never good at and many people weren't good at, and the Henshaw stuff has helped. But there's also that aspect of like, it's like, are CrossFitters really bad at running? Like, or are we just accustomed for after years and years and years of jogging it itself as an end in itself being so popular in this country, of measuring good running relative to people who basically put all of their emphasis on running and getting as tiny and getting as sort of small and withered down, and like people who can run really good times, they can run sub 4 minute miles, but their joints hurt and they're weaker than a bird and they can't pick anything up and all of that. And it's like, is that good running? Or, I mean, that is definitely elite running. I'm not taking anything away from like the fittest runners in the world, but we have a standard for running in this country also that was built. I mean, my father was a marathon runner growing up. He was running marathons all the time, but it was always about, he never touched a weight. It was just always about running all the time, putting in miles. That's not true. My dad would lift weights intermittently, but it wasn't a big part of what he was doing to become a good runner. And so, and what fitness was back then also, like the fittest people in the country were these tiny little 4'11" men who were going to run across a desert or something like that. And I'm just wondering, like, are CrossFitters as bad? Are CrossFitters as bad at running as all of that? Or do we just realize that it's fitness has a different picture? It's like being pretty damn good at running while also just having to drag around your big lats and big traps and big quads all the time. So, you know, you're just going to fucking slow down. Chase likes this story, I'm telling him.
I'm all about this.
He's all about this story.
Yeah, because, I mean, what's the point of getting super small and specialized at it? I mean, you're just building yourself to run away from stuff.
Yeah.
I'd rather be
cowards?
Are they already the best runners in the world for long distance while still being jacked? Is the question. Is that the case? Is Matt Frazier the best long distance runner in the world who's still also jacked?
Here's my thing. Who is the best?
Ross Edgley is.
Oh shit.
I think minimally who's the best, who's the fastest runner in the world who can also like clean like 250? That's all I'm asking. Like clean like 225. Let's just say 225. If you can clean 225 and you can now I know a lot of elite runners I'm sure can clean 225. But that's all I want. I just want that because that's it for ultra marathoners.
I would say like ultra marathoners.
Yes, for ultra marathoners. I demand you elite runners clean 225, and then I'll start caring about your 85-mile race.
Or don't even go with ultra
Viata.
miners. Just go with marathoners. Marathoners are pretty teeny people.
Cam Hanes.
Cameron Haynes could probably clean 225.
It'd be
See, that's all I'm asking.
disgusting looking.
Super fit guys.
Yeah.
Super fit guys. That's all I want. I just want that to be. I just want that to be part of every
all
marathon.
All wants is super fit guys.
I want
if
just
you know
super. I want super fit guys. I
I'm
want every
home here right
marathon
now.
to have a 225 clean involved.
Come
That's
try
all
it
I'm
out.
asking.
I'm blanking on his name. Who's my Navy SEAL homie?
Jocko Willink.
No, Jocko.
Yeah.
Jocko's more of like crush weights, crush souls, crush.
Yeah, but if you
crush
told him
throats.
he had to be an ultra marathoner, he'd
Who's
probably
the other
figure it
guy?
out.
Who's the other guy? He was on Rogan.
Fucking Goggins.
Goggins.
Yes,
Goggins could
exactly.
probably.
No way Goggins can clean 255.
Dude, Goggins deadlifts like 600.
No shit.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
His like lifetime PRs in the high 600s or something. I've seen a video of him like in the past year and a half pulling like 450.
And this is my point. So
Like
this is my
for
point.
reps.
So this is my point. All those guys, Cam Hanes, Goggins. You tell me that that's the best runner in the world? I believe you. Like say like that guy. He's fit. He can pick shit up, and he can run for 85 miles. That is the best runner in the fucking world.
I want to see him
I'll
clean
take that.
250.
You know.
I'd like to see Goggins clean 250.
Some
too.
fu- but
we'd
my
watch
point
his
being some
fly everywhere.
some regular ass marathoner with little bird bones. I don't buy it. I don't buy it 1 second.
But yeah, Ross Edgley, super jacked. David Goggins is super mentally jacked. And Cam Hanes is just really, really dumb, but also really, really tough.
See, there you go.
Is he dumb? I didn't know that.
I don't think he's... Yeah, I think he's a little dumb.
I don't
But
know.
we're all a little bit dumb.
Who knows, man?
He's just tougher than all of us.
Yeah.
Let's do something we haven't done in a while, guys.
What's that?
Let's talk about movies.
Oh,
Yeah.
Two movies in particular I want to talk about.
Yes.
I want to talk about Peanut Butter Falcon. I want to talk about Once Upon a Time
I
in
have
Hollywood.
not seen Peanut Butter Falcon yet.
Not
God
seen Peanut Butter Falcon.
Sorry.
Damn it.
Man, can't you...
It had a limited release in Austin over the past like 2 weeks, and you still
I am
haven't
sorry,
seen it.
Why
Taylor,
didn't you
right?
go
Tyler.
Tyler, I'm shit. Sorry, Tyler. Sorry,
Record it on
Tyler.
your
I haven't
phone.
seen it yet.
And let us watch it on your phone.
Go pay the goddamn ticket.
I will pay you the ticket.
No, don't pay me the ticket.
Mail it to
Give the
him.
ticket to Tyler. Give the ticket money to Tyler.
Send the money.
I'll buy a ticket right now. I can't see it, but you know, I'll support the movie. I'll buy one on my
It's just
fucking
all
phone.
about- Why?
Whatever.
Why is it
Fine.
only
We
in
won't
2
talk
theaters?
about. We won't talk about Peanut Butter
We
Falcon.
will
Fuck
talk
you
about
guys.
it. I will see it.
We're
I just
talking about
haven't
it,
seen it
goddammit.
yet. I'm still playing catch up.
If you are in a city in which Peanut Butter Falcon is playing, one of my buds, Tyler, he's fucking incredible. He and Mike, another one of my friends, they made this fucking movie, and it's amazing. It has Shia LaBeouf in it and Dakota Johnson.
Yeah.
and
I love Shia
A new
LaBeouf.
guy, Zach Gottsagen, who's incredible.
Yeah, tell your girlfriend it's the girl from 50 Shades of Grey.
Is that who that is?
Dakota
Yeah.
Johnson.
Oh, okay, there you go.
She's Don Johnson's daughter.
Don Johnson?
No fucking shit.
You didn't know that?
I didn't
She's
know
in.
either.
She's starring in. She just starred in Suspiria with Tilda Swinton.
I didn't. What?
Yeah,
didn't
She's
know
like
any
the
of those
hottest
things.
female
she's
star
like the
around
hottest
right
female
now.
star around.
Is
loves
she
Tilda
really?
Yeah,
Swinton.
she's far more on the rise than Shia LaBeouf at the moment.
She's the biggest star in that goddamn
Star in
movie.
that movie, way ahead of
Watch
Shia
how you
LaBeouf.
speak about Shia
Come
LaBeouf,
on
Whoa,
now.
dog.
whoa, hurtful.
Come on now.
Hurtful
Come on
words
now.
from everybody.
No,
I didn't know any of that.
She was in 21 Jump Street, kind of, for a minute.
What was she in 21 Jump
She was in
Street?
Social Network. She's the one who
haven't
Sean
seen that
Parker like wakes up in bed with, and she has Stanford on her underwear,
I haven't seen that movie.
which I could describe in detail.
Yeah, that was very eerie.
Stanford. A couple of the letters get lost in the middle of Stanford.
Stafford.
Wow, I didn't know she was Don Johnson's.
Yeah.
Looking for a heartbeat. That's
There you
Don
go.
Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Well, the
That is what he is
well,
famous for.
I'm mostly thinking about Django Unchained.
Is she in Django Unchained
No,
too?
he is.
He is.
He's
Oh,
the
that's right.
plantation owner.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Also
point.
Manhunter. Everyone see Manhunter. It's way better than Red Dragon.
Yes. Wait, is he in that?
Wait,
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
No, he's in Miami
never,
Vice.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
What was I
Different Michael Mann thing, but I
different
get
Michael
it.
Mann thing.
I
Yes,
understand
yes,
how
yes,
your
yes.
brain
I'm
works.
sorry.
is
My
Don
brain
Johnson
fired.
in fucking the guy who destroyed Star Wars' new movie? Ryan Johnson. Ryan
Something
Johnson.
maybe
related
he is,
to
I
Ryan
don't know.
Johnson? I don't think so, dog.
He's
don't
in it's like a whodunit.
It's a whodunit?
It's called Knives Out. I think I saw a
Yeah.
trailer for
I
it.
saw
He
it.
might be in it. I did watch the trailer, but it was like an ensemble cast, so I
Yeah.
can't recall if he was one of them.
Which
But
is
he's
a bummer
in everything nowadays.
because
Like he's having a major resurgence right now. He's in fucking everything these
that
days.
that
so.
trailer has like a bunch of my favorite actors in it.
Yeah.
Fucking Michael Shannon's in it.
Yeah.
I love Michael
Captain
Shannon.
America's in it.
Yeah.
Don't like that guy.
There's a whole bunch of really cool actors and actresses in that movie, and I'm never gonna see it because fuck Ryan Johnson. I
You
guess
hate Ryan Johnson that much? Did you
I
hate
don't-
Looper? Isn't
I
that
thought
Ryan
Looper was
Johnson?
okay.
I will see it. I will definitely see it.
I
I'm
thought
not
Looper was
soured.
okay.
I'm not necessarily soured on Ryan Johnson as such, even if I did not like his Star Wars movie.
I'm gonna wait for impressions from you guys before I go
His,
see
his, I can
Knives
say
Out.
Star
this about
Wars
a Star Wars movie. His Star Wars movie wasn't unskilled. It takes a lot of skill and deliberation to meticulously destroy Star Wars as an intellectual property from here on out.
Yeah,
And
it's
he
like
managed to
how do you
that.
really salt the earth of Star Wars? It's the kind of the most goodwill you have towards anything, and
Yeah.
it's like it already came pretty close, but then they bound it all the way back with the Disney thing. How do you ruin it? Anyway, I'm just
Star
Yeah.
Wars turned into Carthage. Carthage, Romans destroyed it after 3 different wars with it over hundreds of years, destroyed it, knocked everything down, salted the earth so nothing can grow there. That's what they did to Carthage. Do you visit Carthage today? Is it a great tourist location? No. Never fucking heard of it. Doesn't exist. That's Star Wars now.
They were
Let's-
like, eat a dick, Carthage. No one will even go and visit your ruins and take shitty pictures.
That's wild.
Fuck you.
Can you imagine, by the way, just what it was like thousands of years ago when you would just go to war with another country and
Yeah.
you actually could do something like
Yeah.
completely fucking
Erase them.
them from the history books?
But-
Yo.
And there's ever a point though? Is there ever a point where like someone was just salting the earth, because it's like you had to do it, and he's like sprinkling salt so plants can't grow, and he's thinking, seems a little excessive, don't you think? We
No
already
way.
murdered all of them.
Well, even during the Civil War, we did that.
Yeah.
The North
Yeah.
did that to the South. They pulled up all the railroad ties. They fucked up all the fucking farmland. It's like they just go total war.
This talk of war just reminded me of a lesson that I learned from some Mayans while I was down in Belize and Tikal and stuff.
Is it how to cut someone's
And they're
heart out?
talking about essentially they're talking about how the Aztecs, what made them so great at war is that they would go and send like an arbiter to meet with the other army's arbiter, and at that they would, like, the Aztecs would be like, we're gonna send this many people and you're gonna only be allowed to send this many people. They would essentially guarantee victory by saying, you're allowed 10 people, we're gonna send 10 people. And then they would just show up with way fucking more and just wreck shop.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah.
Dude, that doesn't work in modern day because they'd be like, well, we have a drone and it looks like you got way fucking more. Aztecs
they
were just liars.
They were just very sneaky, as it turns out. They
So,
were very, very sneaky.
Anyway, the point of this, I mean, that does remind me of Ozymandias, right? Ozymandias is like a really famous example of. There's like they found a statue, like a broken statue where
that's a poem by
right, but the
William
poem's about
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's about this
It's real, right?
yeah, I think so. I think it's
Yeah,
about this like it's like a
don't ask me.
placard that basically explains like
Look at all my great works.
Look at all my great works. I don't know whether it's real or not, but it.
I think
I don't think it's. I think it's just a poem. I
Is
think
it
it's
straight fiction
it's
or is it
yeah.
actual real?
Is it William
Let's
Blake,
find
right?
out.
Is it
Let's
William
find.
Blake or
It
is it
sounds like
Percy
it.
Shelley or something?
What was the point though?
Ozymandias.
Is it that
Shelley
he
or
didn't
Blake's?
actually have anything out
It's
in
that
front?
it's that it was completely erased from history. That nobody knows who this great quote unquote ruler was. But anyway, the point
Live
of
Googling.
the point of this story, it was apparently inspired by a statue
yes.
of Ramses II,
Oh, okay.
who was known in Greek as Ozymandias.
There you go. Okay, perfect.
Okay, there we
So
go.
real big facts.
Yeah.
The point is that the winner in history gets to write history, dog.
Absolutely, they do.
Yes.
So anyway, the actual point was go see Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yes, that's what we're trying to
shit.
get at.
Hard
because Dakota Johnson.
Because Dakota Johnson, and therefore Ozymandias.
Therefore Ozymandias.
Obviously.
Listen, we can't spell everything out for you
Which
guys.
is what
Please,
that's
follow
who,
along, guys.
That's who
Come on,
Shia
keep
LaBeouf
up.
plays in the movie.
Yes, that's right.
Ozymandias.
Yeah.
That's right. Follow along, everybody. So
Well, that's who
since
Jeremy Irons plays in the new Watchmen series, Ozymandias.
that's
Oh,
right.
shit. Is that
an
good?
older.
Where can I watch that?
It's on HBO. I don't know if
an-
it hasn't come out.
I don't think it's out yet. He plays an older Ozymandias, and I'm really
so
pumped
you're
about
saying
that.
the third episode's when I should get in?
Yeah, basically.
Hand cramp.
Whoa, easy, buddy. Whoa, your thumb was stuck there. That was weird. Okay,
From holding this fucking microphone because we can't afford microphone stands.
No,
Listen,
no.
guys, we're trying
you guys, microphone stands are for loser podcasts
for sure.
where you can be like. Anyway, I was talking about, and then you let go of it, and it floats there. It's really cool.
Who wants that?
It's really crazy,
Floats
magical.
there.
It
It's not
floats.
being held by an arm.
Let's talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because all four of us have seen it at this point.
Uh huh. America hopefully has seen it at this point.
I would hope so. So, guys, we're going to talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you haven't seen it, spoiler
alerts,
alert, I guess.
And there are things to spoil, you sons of bitches.
Boy,
Well-
howdy are they?
Let's. I thought it was okay.
Fuck you.
That is
Let's
that's the
start
wrong
there.
answer. Moving on.
Let's start
Go
there.
fuck
I
yourself.
thought it was okay. I don't
was
think it was his best.
amazing.
I don't think it was his best movie.
Oh,
I thought it was a solid Tarantino
how dare
romp.
you?
But
How fucking dare you?
I felt like it was I thought the ending was incredibly satisfying.
Yes.
It made up for any of the sort of like what to me was kind of like a wandering portion of the first couple hours of the movie. But
Like it more faster. It'll make this easier, so
Yeah.
I don't have to.
I just like it.
You're gonna like this movie, boy.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
No, okay, here's the thing. I think that a lot of this is my honest take on it. Is I've been listening to a lot of different opinions about it, and kind of a lot of people who really really love it, and a lot of people were like, it's really good. I think it's one of his, maybe not one of his best. All of that, and here's legitimately my kind of take on.
Get your microphone closer to your face.
Well, I should get a microphone stand. I think that's what I need.
Then it can be far away all the
Hand
time.
cramp. Hand cramp.
Hey man, those are real things.
But with regard to that, I think that the movie is so kind of without precedent in its construction. And what I mean by that is Tarantino, most people when they're writing films lean very, very heavily on just sort of replicating just a lot of structures and a lot of things that you've seen before, a lot of narrative ideas. You're seeing some variation on something you have seen very, very clearly before, so that by the time you make it around to the end, you kind of know where you are, you know where you've been, you know what movie you just saw, and therefore you can talk about it pretty quick when you come out of it. The thing about Tarantino is he's moved so far beyond that at this point that he really is kind of inventing a new mechanism by which to tell movies every time he tells a movie. Hateful Eight was a little bit more traditional. Death Proof was definitely way the fuck out there, but every time he's kind of creating from scratch a new type of movie to watch. It's like, here's a type of movie that has never existed before. And I think that a lot of people who feel strongly compelled, even a little repelled by the film currently, and I thoroughly believe that this is the case, will eventually come around to loving it a lot. But I think currently a lot of people who watch it feel very unmoored by it. They feel very thrown by it because they walked into something that they have no precedent for experiencing, for cataloging, for grounding in other things that they have seen in the past. Because again, it's largely a fun and kind of almost trivial film for 90% of it, it would seem, but that explores some really, really interesting and really, really deep ideas and is incredibly buoyant and fun and pulls you along and betrays far greater depth upon repeat viewings. And then you realize that entire thing that would be the career highlight of another filmmaker is a long setup to a punchline at the end of the movie that then rewrites the entire movie that you have seen up to that point and clarifies instantaneously what all of the symbols within it means, why the narratives came together in the way they did, and demands it to be viewed again so that you can re-watch it, now integrating that ending into every other aspect that you've watched. And to do all of that, and deliver not only that intellectually, not only deliver that artistically, but to do it, and in process of doing it, because he's so goddamn good, deliver the most propulsive, buoyant, fun, like stand up out of your seat, applaud kind of movie-going experience. He's just kind of like with Inglourious Bastards, kind of like with Pulp Fiction. He just took this kind of like when those NFL players enter the CrossFit games. It's not so much about comparing. It's like he took the stick by which we measure, and he just moved it further up the field than anyone has, I think, with this thing. And it's up to the rest of us to kind of slowly catch up with him, sort things out, and then once people have seen 7 or 8 other movies that are a lot like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and people say it has a kind of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood quality to it, people are going to look back on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and they're going to talk about why it's their favorite movie, and they're going to remember the fact that they watch it every single time it's on TV. They've gone back to it again and again and again, and then eventually we'll talk about it as, and I do believe this, to be his best film with the exception of Pulp Fiction, which is where I would put it in his filmography. Just because really comparing it to the other films in his filmography, it is both so kind of form-changingly innovative. It is also at the same time I predict massive cultural penetration in the way that Django and Inglourious Basterds just really didn't have cultural penetration. People are going to talk about it more. It's going to be more relevant. And then there's a third dimension to that, which is just, when I was really spending a lot of time thinking about how it stacked up against the other movies, and just between cultural penetration, how innovative it is, and just what an amazingly viscerally fun, good time it is. The only film I can say that does all of those things better is Pulp Fiction. So I would put it Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time, and then sort of everything else I'd sort out below that. But I think that's one of the films that is going to only grow in its esteem over the course of the next year, 2 years, 10 years. Yeah.
And let me talk not about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but about one of the other best movies ever made, A Clockwork Orange.
There you go.
And I'll come back around to this here. I was used to part of the thing I do is uncomfortably force people to watch movies they don't really want to watch in odd circumstances. So I remember many years ago when I was really into Clockwork Orange, I forced one of my aunts to watch A Clockwork Orange. And there was a few other people there, but she was not a movie person. She'd maybe seen some Hollywood movies and all that. And so she watched A Clockwork Orange, and I asked her what she thought of it at the end, and her only response was, "That was weird." Yeah. All right. And that really is, I think, the response most people are having to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A Clockwork Orange was one of the best movies ever made and very innovative in every possible way. The most thematically rich movie and the most viscerally rich movie you can possibly imagine. Very unorthodox novel-like structure to the whole thing because it was based, just strictly off of a novel. It's going to take quite a while for people to even be able to interpret it as anything other than just weird, because they don't know how to process what they've seen and understand what it was trying to say and really get past the differentness.
Well, that's the thing is, I think that to a large extent people do get the experience that they've had, but I think the reason people say it is weird is because many of the things that many of the readily accessible rhetorical devices they have for talking about movies just don't really apply. They can't talk about this or the second act it did this, or I liked this character because the bad guy was that. The rhetorical devices they have for discussing movies aren't there, and so everyone's a little bit dumbstruck and a little bit, that's weird. What do you think about it? But I think we've talked too much about that. Let's talk about the actual substance of the movie, because how does the ending rewrite the movie up to that point? And Armin, what did you think about the ending to Once Upon a Time? And Chase, what did you think about the ending to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Well, I'll say this. I was surprised but not shocked because so I went into this movie having obviously not the same sort of movie knowledge as you guys.
Shut up, keep talking.
I've seen a bunch of Tarantino films, you know what I mean? And so I expected, kind of a novel structure, a novel as in a unique structure, sort of like, let's sit in this conversation for 12 minutes and see where this thing goes, surprise moments that nobody could see coming. And I also, just based off of Inglourious Bastards, 100% expected some sort of revision of history. And knowing that the entire thing was based around the murder of Tate and like the Manson stuff and like they're next door neighbors, I was like, this is gonna be different. This isn't gonna be just a retelling of this story. So I actually was laughing my fucking ass off during the final 10 minutes of the movie. I thought it was so fucking funny and so well executed and so fun to see this entire sort of thing come together to like this weird change. And that, to me, it's not like the first 2 hours of the movie didn't need redemption. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed the sort of like strange, like, let's take a walk over these 2 days and see where these people are at in their lives. And then it all makes sense of why those 2 days had to be the part of the story, for, when it all ends, because, it's like you learn about Brad Pitt's character. Brad Pitt has to meet Tex. He has to like get to know these people and like understand there's something strange about them. Like, he goes to the ranch, or you have to learn about Leonardo DiCaprio's character and how he's kind of like on the bubble end of his career, but losing confidence through it. And then how he gains his confidence back. Like, he never would have fucking talk shit to that like jalopy that's in the middle of his cul-de-sac if he hadn't just come back from Italy and hadn't just like revitalized his career type thing. So like all these things,
jalopy.
Yeah, nice, right? All these things have to happen. So like it all made sense to me leading up to that. But the last 10 minutes of the movie are just so fucking good, and it's so entertaining just on its own. And I actually really like the idea of you describing it as a punchline, because it really is. The entire movie is a setup for this to be pulled off.
It's the best stand-up bit ever with a very long setup. It's like, imagine, take yourself back in time, 1969, Cielo Drive, the whatever Tate murders. Now, they didn't have a next-door neighbor who was right next to the gate of the Tate residence, Tate Plains residence. But imagine if they did. Right. I'm going to put, because I'm God of this universe, God is going to create two characters for the sole purpose of this, put them right here.
Yep. And so really, it's like when we heard the premise of the film, a lot of it is like, oh, what if Sharon Tate had next door neighbors and what would their life be like, blah, 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 blah. And I sort of thought, okay, that's an interesting jumping off point for a movie. But then you see the movie and you realize that that's not the jumping off point for the movie at all. The jumping off point for the movie feels like it's the Spawn Ranch. And the Spawn Ranch is, which is interesting, has not been part of the story that has been told that we tell ourselves about the Manson murders. It just hasn't traditionally been. Like, I was like vaguely aware of it, but I had only started reading about it once this movie was announced, blah, 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 blah. But am I hearing sounds?
You're hearing birds.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought it was, for some reason, I
don't hear anything.
Oh, that's so weird. For some reason, I thought it was.
Yeah, there are birds outside.
Oh, okay. There's birds. Okay. So,
Spawn Ranch.
Spawn Ranch. So Spawn Ranch, though, I mean, it's just this interesting thing that was really not part of the story that we've ever really told about it before. But I really think that in the future, as we talk about Manson murders and stuff, the Spawn Ranch will be a much bigger part of that story. But what's interesting about that sequence in general, and just the hat as a jumping off point for the movie as a whole, is it puts the Manson murders, the Manson family, at the center of a cultural revolution, not just nationally, but puts it in the middle of the cultural revolution of Hollywood, in literally the cultural revolution in cinema at that time. So you have, like, there's the great scene where Steve McQueen, who's kind of an old school leading man, points at two of the kind of new hip guys in Hollywood when he's telling the story of Sharon Tate, and comments about how they both look like 12-year-old boys, very much the same way that, you know, Hoffman, Dustin Hoffman would did in The Graduate, and all of that. This kind of new hippie 60s monkeys, Roman Polanski, that kind of guy, leading man, leaving behind the Steve McQueens and the Rick Dalton, who's sort of a lesser successful Steve McQueen in the film. So what's interesting is that this real historical event puts these kind of the dark side of the Cultural Revolution, the dark side of this big upheaval, the dark side of the hippie world. It puts it literally in the decaying relics of the sets for where they shot cowboy serials back in the day, and that is the most thematically rich and loaded moment in time to 50 years later, or however long it's been.
50 years later. It was released almost on the 50-year anniversary. Re-examine this current cultural moment we are in right now, where quite literally Hollywood is being blown up and exploded from within by a cultural and ideological revolution that people like Quentin Tarantino feel like they're caught up in the middle of. And it's many different kinds of revolutions. You could say it's the ideological revolution of the last couple of years. You could say it's the technological revolutions of the past 10 years, with cinema, with shooting on film and projecting on film going away. And this is, of course, typified in the scene with Brad Pitt's Rick Dalton character. He goes on set to perform this thing. He gets challenged to actually be an actor, and he has to literally costume himself like a hippie. He's literally asked, hey, you want to be part of New Hollywood? Guess what? I know you showed up hungover just to, play the heavy, but this is your opportunity today to be a part of New Hollywood. Dress up like this guy. See yourself in a new way. Here's a girl who's 8. She fucking gets it.
Like, give me Hamlet. Yeah.
And she gets intimidated by an 8-year-old girl who's studying all these new schools of acting. I mean, he was very much a stand flat foot, stare at the other guy and squint your eyes and say the line kind of an actor. And she's talking about process and all of this. And it pushes him into a full-blown fucking panic attack as he's being left behind. And then he rallies and he comes back and he gets it. And you realize maybe if he put in a little bit, if he opened himself up a little bit, he could step through that gate. He could step through that gate into New Hollywood that he had literally been on the other side of. Obviously, then this is typified in the end with the literal gate he gets invited into. And then, of course, when he goes to Hollywood and he comes back, he's starting to look like the character he portrayed on the thing. He has longer hair all of a sudden. He's, wearing the jacket, he's got the sideburns. He's starting to look like that guy. And it's just this wonderful, and it's that wonderful thing where he's literally called upon. He's complaining and he's bitching and he's moaning and he doesn't want to go to Rome. And then all of a sudden he shows up for another workaday job, hungover as usual. And then it's like, here's your shot. I want you to do something different. And I just love that entire sequence. And then what that does setting him up in Rome. And the fact that one perfect day, you see him do that whole arc. And this is the exact same day where he drops him off, where Brad Pitt drops him off at set, picks up the girl, goes to Spawn Ranch, and has that entire sequence, which symbolizes the exact same conflict, but from a different dimension, which is you have this old, war hero cowboy going to check in on an old man who, as it turns out, even that very notion gets perverted when you realize that the old man is happier to be there fucking, teenage girls, and he's content. And really it's Cliff. And that's the other fun thing, is that you realize just how lonely Cliff is at that point. Because that's the other thing I love about the whole I'll suck your cock thing on the drive up there with the girl, is like, he already knows he's on that mission, which you get on the second time, because he doesn't pick her up. She's leaning into his car. And when she says, I'm living up at the Spawn Ranch, he goes, oh, so you and a bunch of friends like you are living at the Spawn Ranch. And she goes, yeah, get in the car. And so the whole drive, he's going up to check out his friend. And so he is quite literally, Rick Dalton represents the image of the cowboy. He represents the Hollywood ideal of the cowboy, whereas Cliff represents being an actual cowboy. Like he hears a call that there might be someone in trouble up at the ranch. An old man might be in trouble.
Literally at the ranch.
Literally at the
He
ranch.
sidles up. He drives out to the ranch, all the way out to the ranch. He takes a look around. He meets some strange-looking locals. He literally walks into a western town. He ends up finding out the old man's kind of okay, kind of not. He ends up getting into some trouble again on the dusty strip of the western. And what do? They go get Tex, who rides in on his horse to get his horse. And this all leads, and where does it eventually lead? To a big shootout at the end between Tex, the guy who he at the ranch, and him, and the acid cigarette and all of that. And it's just... But think about the conflict that's being typified in that dimension as well. You have an old cowboy. He had a particular idea about the workmanly nature of what it was. I mean, he's a stunt man. He's not an actor. He worked at the ranch. He did falls. He was a handy guy. He has all of that kind of stuff. And now he's suddenly looking at this strange perversion, and even when he's going to meet his friend, he thinks he's going there to help him, and he gets spit back out. He realizes this doesn't even belong to you anymore, and that sets Cliff up so perfectly because it makes him look like a huge badass, and it sets up everything we need for the end. But it shows us that Cliff is like really searching for his place in all of this, and that's what's so wonderful about the end when he finally gets fired and all of that, and we don't know what's going to happen, and then Leo, all the shit happens at the end, and he's like, we realize that Cliff's just going to keep driving for him and keep living with him forever, but now this new Hollywood version of Rick Dalton, this new Steve McQueen, post him making the conversion to New Hollywood version of Rick Dalton, he's going to be driving for him, and I like that idea, and I think it's pretty cool.
Chase, what did you think of the movie?
That was pretty tight. No, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, man, I enjoyed it from the get-go. I kind of like the mundane storytelling at the beginning, kind of like setting up pieces without any real like understanding of what was coming, because until you like explained all that, now that like radically makes more sense. I was just like, oh yeah, that's why whenever he cracks his lips, his dog like jumps up and gets fed.
But
like,
that's the
those
level
were the big obvious things.
But that's
that
a great
jumped out
thing.
to
But
me.
I'm saying is like that's what's so great about it is it works thematically, but also works mechanically in that way. It's like there's so many satisfying setups and payoffs that just are that punch you in the dick.
The whole very fun, very lovely scene where he goes to his trailer and feeds his dog there. It's a very long scene. You enjoy it for its own sake because it's very charming there. But what do you see? He has a beastly pit bull who's very well trained with very specific signals that he feeds with these giant chunky cans of dog food that literally factor into the climax as a weapon.
And as a misdirection, that scene has this very light tone, which is good. It synergizes perfectly with what we need to set up Cliff's character at that moment, but it's another way to, in a very clandestine manner, set up all of these very violent things in a way that your brain is not... For instance, if he came back and he had a mean dog behind a chain link fence and he throws him a bone and the dog goes after it, and we have to set up that mean dog he has for later, the ending wouldn't be half as satisfying because, well, he has a mean dog, it came back as a mean dog.
They set up a very loyal, loving, and obedient dog.
And a funny dog, and a silly dog, and a goofy dog is what it feels like.
Even during the movie, they kept referencing there's like the flamethrower keeps coming up, and you know from the moment the flamethrower comes up that it's going to be used at some point.
Well,
and then
that's
you see
that winking idea. That winking idea, but that's
yes,
that's literally you see it in the closet.
When he goes to fix the antenna, it's like in the corner
and
in the
camera
shed.
tips down to it and then
Just
cuts
a little
away
bit,
just
just
a little
for a
bit.
second.
And goes away.
I missed it.
Yeah, but that's the
And
thing.
I was like, Rick Dalton's gonna fucking use this
flamethrower. Well, literally the image I got, the image I got, and this is where Tarantino is ahead of you, is that my first thought was, oh my god, and like imagining Rick Dalton like flamethrowing all of the Manson for kids, and all that or something. And I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? And the ending they gave was so much better than that. It's like how do you make it better even than that? And so you do, and it's like it's. All of the rich ideas and everything are great, and I love them, but it's just that they are so perfectly written and then perfectly executed. And then whatever you think, and you're like, I see where he's going, the flamethrower, I can anticipate what's going to happen. Then he says, well, because people are going to anticipate what's going to happen, they're probably imagining an 11 out of a 1 to 10, so I have to deliver a 15. You know, and that's what he did. And he has that gear, and he can do that because you even look at the ending sequence and just the brilliance of, God damn it, we've turned we've turned Cliff into basically a superhero at this point, and that's what he is. He's a Billy Jack like superhero, like of this like kind of warrior poet kind of weird cowboy guy.
Talking to the goddamn
No,
microphone.
I
Kyle.
refuse. Anyway, the point being, he is this guy, but they basically turned him into a fucking superhero. And how do you then introduce an element of uncertainty? How do you then introduce an element of danger? And obviously, the acid cigarette is the thing that does that, because you're like, okay, there's no tension if Rick is anywhere near the scene, because the idea is it's just
Cliff
a
is
question.
anywhere near the scene.
Sorry, that Cliff is anywhere near the scene, because you know that he can sort of essentially destroy anyone, but you don't know. It's not like he gets a sedative or something, like he takes LSD, and we have no idea if that's good or bad. Like, it was just weird, and it's incredibly entertaining though, and it makes it, but it puts that in whole sequence on a razor's edge, and that razor's edge just sets you up so that when it ultimately does deliver that ending, it just adds even more power into it, and it's just, it's just all the pieces and then the ideas that then are at work is he simultaneously delivers this thing that mechanically, viscerally, just explodes your pelvis with a dick punch. It does all of that at the end. But that dick punch ending is so thematically loaded that it rewrites the entire film up to that point. I mean, literally, it's harder to get. And I don't think that necessarily Rick is Tarantino's voice, but I think he is a
Cliff.
voice. Sorry,
Cliff or Rick.
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 I don't think that Rick is Tarantino's voice, but I think that Rick is certainly a voice for a part of Tarantino, in the sense that he is a voice for every character is kind of a voice for part of the writer. And there's almost no more kind of loaded and fun and in-your-face thing than the Manson car pulls up to kill Sharon Tate. The dark side of the Cultural Revolution shows up to sully, corrupt, and eviscerate the kind of the princess of Hollywood who lives up in her castle, and Rick Dalton staggers out with a pitcher full of margaritas and literally screams into their window, "You don't belong here!" It's like, "Go away, you fucking hippies! Back out of the driveway!" Like, he shoos them away, and then that, which perfectly typifies everything that the film's ideas have been up to that point, also simultaneously typifies what the dynamic between Rick and Cliff has been up to that point, because the entire movie is about Cliff cleaning up Rick's messes. When he drunk drives and does all of these things. And so now, just on a comedic duo level, it's he went and talked mad shit to a bunch of murderers in a car and then went into the backyard to hide. And then Cliff just wanders into the living room to just deal with the brunt of all of his bullshit, because he couldn't pick up on the fact that these are really serious looking people, because he was too drunk to realize he was in danger. So then it's like this scene, there's all the themes of the movie, and yet it's also the setup to the punchline between those two characters. As Rick's cleaning up his mess, he's taking the hits for him, he's carrying the load for him, he's literally his stunt guy. His job is to take falls for Rick, and at the end, the ultimate fall is, remember when you went up to that car full of murderers and yelled at them all and said, "I dare you to come try and kill me," and then hid, and then he has to deal with that at the end. And it's like all of that loaded into that one perfect Swiss watch, beautiful fucking ending. And then once you see the ending and you kind of understand all of the symbols and how they relate to each other, because the themes are put on Front Street, and you also are relieved suddenly from the tension of viewing Sharon Tate as the victim, and you begin to realize, because obviously the title Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a very evocative of many of the films he likes, Once Upon a Time in Once Upon a Time in the West, it's Once Upon a Time in America, the Sergio Leone thing. It's also a fairy tale title, and he takes that seriously, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so it does not revealed until the last scene of the movie what the purpose of Sharon Tate was. We've been seeing Sharon Tate lead her life. We've been seeing her flit around, watch movies, seeing little glimpses of who she is. we don't know why the whole movie. And in fact, there's aggressively little for her to do, specifically because it wants to pose a question. Because if she's going to get murdered at the end, we understand what her purpose is. You know, it's like, okay, we're seeing the victim before she gets murdered. When she doesn't get murdered at the end, that absence poses a question. Who is she and what does she represent in this film? And that question is thoroughly answered there in that last moment when, quite literally, looking up an ascendant path full of flowers with a gate separating him, her voice comes down from on high through a little communication box and says, "Rick, oh, it's so good to finally talk to you. Would you like to come up?"
And then
Jay Sebring, yes, the idea of Emil Hirsch just giving the
you did it. He was like, you did it.
And that's the great thing about is he also, even in that moment, he's still trying to entertain the audience. So he puts in the goofy thumbs up during that moment to let you know it's okay to laugh with this moment as well. And he walks up, and it's beautiful. And because a whole nother event thing to kind of go in, and I'll give the short version, is how the diffusion of violence throughout the film is a device that's used over and over and over again to sort of foreshadow the ending. So we build towards what we think is going to be a really dark thing that happened on the set of Green Hornet, which ultimately is the Bruce Lee fight, which is referenced ominously several times, and we're waiting for, what did he fucking cripple Bruce? What happened? Did he murder someone? And then finally realize what he did was he made another guy's wife angry by denting her car. So like the violence as it's building, and it quickly diffuses. Same thing on the Spawn Ranch. Oh, we think violence is going to happen. Darkness, murder. It's a Tarantino movie, and it diffuses, and it's just a silly old guy who's trying to get laid. Same thing. Manson people are heading up to the house to kill piggies, and then Rick Dalton busts out of the house and goes, "Bah!" And he undoes the Manson murders in exactly the same way. So it's like build towards violence, diffuse. Build towards violence and tension and darkness, diffuse. Build towards the Manson murders, which is supposed to be the climax of the fucking movie. And just like Zoe Bell walks out in the end of the Bruce Lee fight, or just like the Bruce Dern rolls over and he's like, "What?" You know, like he just bursts out of the house, just fucks up that whole moment, and it just fucks up the Manson murders. The difference this time is after the violence finally gets diffused for this third time, we see him back up, we hop into the car, we have that great scene where they say, "Is that Rick Dalton?" And they decide, have that great Tarantinian turn where someone just says, "But what if this?" And immediately jumps in, says, "But what if this? Let's go murder them," drives back up, and that's when we get the payoff to all of the ideas and everything that's come up to this point. It is a film, I don't know. How many times has Cliff seen it so far?
A bunch. I can't remember.
Yes, a bunch of times.
You just had a real filmgasm right there.
Yeah, there was a lot of...
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. You like it? You're gonna watch it again, Armin?
How angry?
You're gonna watch it
How
again, Armin, you
angry
piece
is
of shit.
Kyle right now?
You fucking piece of shit.
I
You're gonna
started
watch
with,
it,
yeah, I
piece of
liked it.
shit.
It was pretty good. And I'm ending with, yeah, I liked it. It was pretty good after 40 minutes of this. And Kyle's like, "You motherfucker."
Listen, I only get into my breathless nerd, for certain things, because it's not a sexy look.
That was really impressive.
It's not a sexy look.
I'm good to hear. It's good to hear it come from a positive thing as opposed to a shitting on something thing, which is good.
Which is,
the positivity in the
I think
world
this
is
is
necessary.
good for you.
Yes. Oh, this is great. Like
A rising tide raises all ships.
I'm telling you, man. Like I count on these things to, like, you don't get that many opportunities. I don't get that many opportunities anymore, just because I'm so fucking in it with film stuff to really like be inspired. You know? And it's like, and that's definitely
well. It certainly was one of those situations where even throughout the movie, I liked, like I said, I liked sort of we're on a meandering path of this film. Like we're telling the story of these 2 days, and it makes sense in hindsight. But I like that meandering path because in a way I trust Tarantino to handle that well. He can write really good fucking dialogues. He puts together interesting scenes. He has some of the best actors in the world fucking saying his words, and it all just kind of, you just kind of like lean into it and you're like, all right, fine, like I'll see where this is going. It's all very interesting. And to me, I think looking back at now, like sort of the entirety of what Tarantino has done up until this point, I think arguably, I don't think he's ever even made like a B movie. Like every one of his movies have been so fucking good.
It goes without saying that all of his films are great films. The only thing is, like, people like talk shade like about Hateful Eight, but really only in the sense that it's a really, 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 really great movie, but maybe the least of his masterpieces, you know, and that's sort of the that's his low point, if you will, is just having made a really amazing movie in Hateful Eight.
Damn, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, me too. I hate it when I accidentally do that. But either way, yeah, if you guys haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you fucking should go, because
well, if you haven't seen it, you've been spoiled all to hell on it now.
That's
but
true.
Yes.
At least now you'll get stuff, because
I would only say that. I would only
The
say
lingering,
if you haven't seen it yet, the movie does benefit genuinely from knowing more about the Manson murders. I wish I had known more about the Manson murders ahead of time.
Same.
Because all the little details of it, because that would just make everything much more satisfying and much more scary leading up to it if you haven't been spoiled.
I think you need to know you need to know two things. Spawn Ranch is a real thing. They actually lived there on that movie ranch. That guy who Spawn, who ran it, real guy, really was an old 80-year-old blind man who let Charles Manson and the rest of them live on that ranch. And stuff. That's a real thing. And then those people really killed that lady. That's basically the two things you need to know.
It does help to know that they killed her
they
in
killed that
August.
lady, and they killed everyone else in that house.
It does help to know that they killed her in August, because I didn't know what time of year they killed her, and I thought it was going to happen way earlier in the movie.
Yes.
And I was really worried that like it was just going to come out of fucking nowhere, and I wasn't going to be ready for it.
Oh, by the way, when the song, this is another thing we haven't even talked about. The songs playing on the radio have never. Tarantino has needle drops in all of his movies here. Never have they been better integrated with what's going on. As Brad Pitt is about to pick up the hippie chick, you know, on August night and the leaves are brown, and the lyrics.
Well, more importantly,
presaging.
but more importantly, the first time he sees her was
Yeah,
playing
Mrs.
"Here's
Robinson."
to you, Mrs. Robinson.
And the second time, Heaven Sent.
Yes, and
a little jingle there.
Yeah, and the other thing is we haven't even talked about the fact that forget literally everything I said before. just the fact that as an experience, I like literally just watching Brad Pitt tear out of those Hollywood hills in his little blue sports car, and to that music go ripping into Los Angeles with all of the buildings redone to be like 1969. So, and there's hundreds of period cars just around on the highway, and the cameras are swirling in and around while he's just blazing down the highway, engines revving, listening to rock and roll for prolonged. Because a big part of this film is these long sequences that are largely set to just radio cuts, because it's like songs changing on the radio that communicate to you that the geography of where all these things are in relation to each other. So Brad Pitt will leave Leonardo DiCaprio's house, and we'll get a whole montage of him driving from the high Hollywood Hills to the low of his kind of impoverished little thing. But you'll see every stage of that drive along the way, and Tarantino uses these not just to kind of create this idea of a connected, geographically contiguous Los Angeles that is a character in the film, but he also does it as an opportunity to just to create the aesthetic space that he wants to create of Tarantino's 1969. And so you have these amazing sequences. Like the first time that Brad Pitt went tearing down Sunset Boulevard, 1969, in the car with the music blaring and the wind going through his hair. Like, I got like almost emotional during that part. I was just like, this is just beautiful that this exists. How is this? And it's part of a movie. Like, this could exist, but it could only exist in some compromised way. Like, this is like a Coca-Cola commercial that Brad Pitt did for the Super Bowl, and it was cool, and everyone would say, man, I wish we could still have movies like that. Like, Brad Pitt's looking all Steve McQueen-y, driving around this car. Someone should make, and then some hack Hollywood screenwriter would write some movie with a bunch of fucking plot in it that was set sometime, and there would be some dumb fucking actress who was his love interest, and then they would make that, and they would say, yeah, this is his Steve McQueen movie, and we would say,
are you talking about Benjamin Button?
I'm not. I'm talking about anything. I'm talking about like whatever. The fact that this version, the best possible version of this, exists and is just, it's something we all get to enjoy.
I agree. I think the high point of this movie and the entire reason to watch it is just how dreamy Brad Pitt is.
He's
very fucking dreamy in this movie.
The other thing that Tarantino understands. You need to turn the camera off. Okay,
keep it going.
The other thing that Tarantino understands is, and this is something that Michael Mann didn't understand, I don't think. And I don't think he didn't understand it, but I think it's part of the reason people sometimes are unsatisfied with Heat, is because it's the big Al Pacino, Robert De Niro movie, but the guys almost never share a frame. In fact, I think it's deliberately done by Michael Mann so they do not share a frame until they're holding hands at the end of the movie. They actually do a couple, it doesn't matter. But the point is, like, they only have one big scene together where they're shot in separates. And as much as I get why Michael Mann was doing that in Heat, what the point of it was, you kind of feel gypped a little bit. You kind of feel like, all right, I get it, but like I kind of wanted to see Al Pacino and Robert De Niro acting in the same frame, in scenes together, all of that kind of stuff. And Tarantino was like, I am here to deliver the goods. So whenever Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are in the same goddamn scene, they're at a bar or they're standing in front of a sign or whatever, he is setting them up so that he can frame the conversations with them both in one glorious frame so that you just get to luxuriate the entire movie. And like, that is Leonardo DiCaprio. That is Brad Pitt. They are in the same frame. They are in the same movie. They are connected. They feel like buds, and it holds them together. It's a technique that he uses in Reservoir Dogs, like in the opening of Reservoir Dogs, when Mr. Orange first gets in the car with all of the guys. The other three guys who are criminals are shot in a 3-shot, and then he's shot in a single until he begins to participate in the conversation and goof around. Then it's shot in 2s and 2s, you know, to kind of show how he's joined. And they're buddies. They're dynamic duo. They're the two biggest movie stars of their time, playing a hero and a stuntman. They're doppelgangers of each other, and he builds the whole movie around having these balanced frames, whether they're watching TV in the living room, whether they're driving in a car, and he's like, does that have to do fucking Italian movies? He just keeps them connected the whole goddamn movie. And so you just get to, it's a treat. It's a real treat. So
yeah, it was really good. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Fuck you.
Stop poking. Stop poking it. It was fucking great,
Fuck you,
Kyle.
Armin.
I'm gonna buy 8 copies when it comes out.
Right,
Shit.
yeah.
All right,
Fucking mail
yeah.
them to my friends
I'm ready for this
with
to,
a recording of Kyle.
I'm gonna pee my pants.
How do you
I'm
make
ready
video
for this to be
cards?
over.
What was that?
I make video cards.
Dude, that's a great
Yeah.
app. You should make that. Video greeting cards.
Yeah.
How do I work this thing? Is gonna be the entire usage of
It'd
it.
be pre-recorded with that.
Let's get our social
All
medias
right,
out
I'm
there.
at Mr. Kyle Bogart on a far less exhausting Instagram account than this podcast.
I'm at Cliff Bogart on an Instagram account that is lying fallow.
I'm at Chase504 on Instagram.
And you can find me at Arm & Hammer TV. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening. Remember, if you want to support the channel, if you want to support the show, go to armandhammer.tv, buy some sweet merch, some sneaky fit stuff, some BRP stuff. We're talking hats, we're talking shirts, we're talking ice shaker bottles, we're talking women's tank tops. That's a brand new one. And
We're talking cock rings.
we're talking, yeah, I think all those things are
all of it.
upcoming. I'm currently prototyping, testing our cock ring. You can also just directly support the channel, Arm & Hammer TV, armandhammer.tv/support. And
If you hate merch, that's the option for you.
that's the option for you.
Yeah.
Go see Peanut Butter Falcon.
Go see
Yeah.
Peanut Butter
Fuck yeah.
Falcon. Go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Enjoy all those things. We'll catch you guys next week. Later.
Later.